Lesson 4.8, Telling Time on the Quarter Hour. Today's learning target is I can tell time to the nearest hour and half hour. I will begin to learn about quarter hours. Boys and girls, when we take a look at this pizza right here, we can divide it into 4 pieces, just like that. Each of these pieces is equal, so we have 4 equal parts. When we have a clock, boys and girls, it's just like a pizza. We can divide it into 4 equal parts as well, just like a pizza. So just like a pizza, a clock can be divided into 4 equal parts. So when we take a look at these 4 pieces, we ask ourselves, what is one of these 4 pieces called? We can call one piece a quarter or a fourth. So when we're eating a piece of pizza, we would say I ate a quarter of the pizza, or I ate a fourth of the pizza. This, boys and girls, is going to help us to learn when we talk about the quarter hour. When we divide a clock face into 4 equal parts, it makes it easier to tell times between o'clock and half-hour times. Before we begin talking about the quarter hours, let's spend a little bit of time going back and reviewing hour and half-hour times. If we take a look at this clock right here, let's look carefully at the hour hand and the minute hand and decide what time is this clock showing us. That's right, this clock is showing us 3 o'clock. We know this because when we look at the hour hand, it's pointing directly to the 3. And when we look at the minute hand, it's pointing right up at the 12. Let's take a look at our next clock. Look carefully at this clock and look at our hour hand and our minute hand, and let's take a minute to think about what time is this clock showing us. That's right. This clock is showing us that it is 4:30. Or if we're using words, we could say that it is 4:30. It's important for us to know that when we're looking at exact hour times, it is easy to tell the time with just the hour hand, because the hour is pointing directly at the hour that it is. For times that are halfway between, right here, maybe half past or other between times, we can make a reasonable estimate about what time it is by looking at just the hour hand, because we know it's between the 4 and the 5 or between 2 numbers. But we really have to look carefully at the minute hand, so that helps us be more exact about what time it is. Let's spend a few minutes and let's practice a few more hour and half-hour times. I think we're ready to move into telling time to the quarter hour. Let's take a look at our first clock. This one is going to be important for us to know a starting place. Our clock here shows that it is 10 o'clock. And it's a clock, if we look at the hour hand, it's pointing directly at the 10, and our minute hand is pointing directly at the 12. Now let's take a look at our next clock. If we take a look at this, what happened to the hour hand? It moved partway from the 10 a little bit closer to the 11. So when we look at this clock and we're looking just at the hour hand, we know that the time is between 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock. Notice, boys and girls, that our hour hand before was right here, and it moved from here to here. When we look at what we learned just earlier, that we call this a quarter, our clock moved a quarter hour. So that when we look at the clock like this, and we look at these hands, we know that it is about quarter after 10 o'clock, or about quarter past 10 o'clock. Let's take a look at another clock. We're going to move our hand a little bit further here. What happened to our hour hand? So if we noticed, our hour hand moved a little bit closer to 11 o'clock, and we still know that the time is between 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock. But again, we take a look at this minute hand, and we remember that we started up here. So our minute hand has moved all the way down here. So again, if we take a look, it has moved down. And the clock now shows that it is 10:30. Because if we look at our hour hand here, it's halfway between the 10 and the 11. And we also know that if we cut our pizza in half, that this, we could use the words and say it's 10:30. So we're going to change our clock one more time. And if you notice, we now have moved our minute hand from here to here. And we're talking about quarters again. So let's take a look at our hour hand again. If you notice, our hour hand has moved even closer to the 11 now. So it's still between 10 and 11. So it's still 10 o'clock. It's not quite 11 o'clock yet. So now if we take a look at the minute hand, that's right here, we know that it's moved another quarter hour. So when we look at this, and when this minute hand is right there, we would say that it is quarter before 11, because there's a whole quarter here. So almost 11 o'clock, but not quite. It needs to go another quarter. Or we also could call it quarter to 11. Let's spend a little bit of time practicing telling time to the quarter hour now. Let's practice this work on our own. Let's open our math journal to page 71.